Hi guys, welcome to my first Resilient Tuesday live Q and A. Sorry, my alarm went off. My first live Q&A. If you don't already know who I am, my name is Tammy. Um, I am a C4C5 quadriplegic. I was injured 13 years ago when I was 17 due to a car accident. I was not the one who was driving, but I was sleeping in the back, and a driver had cut off our car, which caused my driver to panic and swerve, then hit an oncoming divider, and the car flipped, and the impact was heavily on my side. And I was caught under the car. The whole car was on top of my head, and I had to be cut out of my car. I had to be cut out from under there, and then um, I do remember waking up in the ambulance and feeling like I need to throw up. I'm assuming it's from the concussion, but little things like that. And I posted this picture as an example of where it started for me, just to give you hope and let you know that I do empathize, and I definitely know, I've been there before, and I hope by showing you how far I've come, it encourages and inspires you to not give up on yourself and work hard, but reasonably. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. So I collected all your questions, and I guess we can start. Someone asked me how. If you see me looking to the left, sorry, I have notes there because I really wanted to answer your guys' question thoroughly. You guys have also asked me how have I learned to embrace and sorry how have I learned to embrace spinal cord injury life. My best answer is that I found a love for life the more I faced my fear and I put myself out there. The more I regained in terms of physical strength. It became addicting because I saw what was possible, and it it drove me to work even harder and realize that there's so like the possibilities are still there, and I realize my potential too, because believe me, like I never would have imagined being where I'm at today. I do take it one moment at a time. It didn't happen overnight for me. I've learned to tell myself that every little or big effort that I put back into myself, it's an act of self love, because it's me fighting for myself and fighting for my life, and just, um, you know, not allowing fear. And, it's okay to grieve the life you thought you were going to have. And it's okay to grieve, but I've learned to set a certain amount of time to grieve, yet not allow it to completely consume me and rob me of life. And yeah, I try not to have. I've spent a lot of time being overly ambitious because I felt like I needed to prove that I wasn't disabled. And, it wasn't healthy for me. My best advice is it's okay to have ambitions, and it's okay to, want more for yourself, but just remember to do it for the right reasons, and do it for the reasons that will give you peace and is more grounding than stressful. Another thing is that I try to live life with gratitude. Uh, for me, the car was on top of my head, and I thank my lucky stars every day that it wasn't worse, because when in 2013 I had to get a surgery, and I was rehabilitated and hospitalized one more time, but I was on the brain injury floor, and I saw, you know, what rehab and what life was like for them. And it made me realize, like, wow, that could have been me, because the car was on top of my head, and I woke up under the car, and saw all the windows blown up, and I was upside down and it had to be cut out. So I feel very grateful that it wasn't worse than what it was, you know. And yeah, so that's the one thing that's kept me grateful, because when you have a healthy brain, I know although you can't physically do certain things, I'm grateful for having a healthy brain because, you know, my mind is what allows me to, hi Chelsea, what allows me to coordinate my life and coordinate my care and direct people and whatnot. So that's what I'm grateful for. And I try to appreciate life, you know, for every little moment, the good days and the bad days, you know, the big milestones and the little milestones. And yeah, so someone else asked how I get intensive therapy after getting discharged from the hospital. After I got discharged from the hospital, I I started going to a spinal cord gym. It's like an intensive workout, and it's called SciFit, but there's other outlets now that I work with, like my former trainer, Steph. She does adaptive Pilates and she works with spinal cord patients. And how I get therapy is that it is really costly. So I've always fundraised, and I have an apparel line that I sell, like sweaters, hats, and whatnot, to raise money to be able to afford physical therapy. But due to COVID right now, Valley Medical is not doing their open gym. I used to go there because they had like a really big open gym with different equipment there, but I think they've paused it. But if you're in San Jose, Santa Clara Valley Medical does provide equipment for outpatient, and you just have to pay a small membership. And I do workouts at home. I do bed workouts. I fundraised money for a manual chair, and I go to the mall and I push around the mall every Tuesday, and that's how I get cardio in. And I always incorporate resistance bands. So I switch it up. I don't like to do things that are repetitive because I do feel like I get burnt out. And yeah, so what happens? Someone asked, what happens if a caregiver doesn't show up for a bowel program? Will I have accidents? I can only answer for myself. If a caregiver doesn't show up for a bowel program, for me, I would not get accidents because I'm on a regular schedule, but I would probably feel really backed up. Like I've gotten to a place where I'm regular. I can feel that my stomach is full, tight, and I'm super bloated, and it gets really hard to breathe, and it's just uncomfortable. So for you, no, you will probably maybe not have accidents. Don't quote me on that. But for me, no. But if you ever, if a caregiver doesn't show up, maybe it's best to train multiple people in your family to do bowels for you in case a caregiver doesn't show up. Like I've made sure to memorize my care from top to bottom to make sure that if a caregiver doesn't show up, a family or friend who is available, I can train them or guide them on what to do to help me with like catheter care or bladder care or just my overall care. So someone asked, how do I play with my dog in my wheelchair? I'm going to throw up a video. See, I tie him to the back of my wheelchair. There's a pole. I have a Quantum. I forgot what model, but I have a Quantum, and there's a pole, and I just wrap the leash on there. And here, I put on my standing frame. You can always elevate if they're high up, and you teach them things like main words like up and here, and it's just repetitive. You have to match an action with a word. And believe me, whoever has a pet, I know you could do it because this is my first dog ever, and I got it when I was in a wheelchair, and I didn't take him to any pet classes. They actually pulled me inside and was honest with me and said that a lot of the training at like PetSmart and whatnot, they do hand controls, and because my hands are paralyzed, I can't do the hand controls. So they told me that if I would prefer to get my money back, then they'll give me my money back, because they don't want to take my money and not be able to train me to do the normal things an able body would be able to do. So I trained him all from home, and with treats and just a lot of repetition and matching an action to a word. And so someone asked me, how do I manage my bowel and the level of difficulty? So bowel, it took a while, right? Everyone's schedule and diet is different. I used to not understand, like, I used to get this weird tight feeling in my chest, and I didn't realize I was backed up. It was like hard to breathe, and I felt it in the left side of my chest. And I've learned that that means that I'm backed up, I'm constipated, and or I just need to go. So those are kind of cues that you can try to look out for. And for me, bowels, I've gotten my body regular to a point where I can flip it from morning or to night. Back then, my caregiver used to transfer me on the toilet, and I would do it in the morning. And it took me 10 years to be able to sit on the toilet. It's still a little scary. I still have to get like a pillow propped behind me and whatnot. But yeah, sitting on the toilet is faster because gravity does the work for you. But in bed, I can also do it at night. Now, I can't stress enough how diet is very important. I make sure to drink a green smoothie every morning, which consists of power greens from Costco, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and almond milk, and sometimes fruits. But I'm the type to want to just pound it for my own health and get it over with. And I've conditioned myself to do that. And yeah, I just like to get it over with because there's other things that I need to do than just sit there and babysit a smoothie. And then for diet, my power greens and kale is my two go-to vegetables that helps me clear out easily. And I used to use a DocuState, but I've noticed since I've been eating regularly and I've been drinking a lot of water and I drink my green smoothies and incorporate veggies, I find that I don't need it. So I think I'm just cutting back on pills. But if it works for you, then, I was on that for 10 years as well, but I just switched up my diet and was more disciplined with it, and it really helped. Here is a picture. This is the suppository I use. It's called Magic Bullet. So there's two kinds of suppositories. There is oil-based suppository, which is what is usually covered by insurance. They take a while to dissolve when it's inserted in your body because it's oils and it's refrigerated. But it took forever for me, and it caused a lot of accidents because it's oils. There's a lot of residue that's still inside your body that doesn't clear out on its own unless you ditch them, for me at least. And it caused me a lot of accidents. So over time, I've learned to fork out the money. I buy these suppositories called Magic Bullet. They're water-based, and they dissolve in like 10 to 15 minutes. And it just, I don't have to ditch them and wait for the pill to come out. What's it called? Yeah. Also for these, I cut it in half as well. So that's a way for you to conserve and, save money. And sometimes if you feel like it's not clearing you out and you ate more that day, then for sure you can just use a whole pill. First, I find that half works just fine for me. And I screenshotted this whole thing specifically because this is where I usually buy my suppositories from and a lot of my medical supplies, which is from Allegro Medical. They have a lot of sales. They have a lot of free shipping, and their prices are usually I would say 5 to 10% cheaper than the stock market prices like Amazon and whatnot. And you always just want to make sure what you're buying is not expired as well, because that's really important. Okay. Let's see. How do I manage my bladder and the difficulty of it? So bladder is something that I've had to learn to work with over time because when I first got my suprapubic catheter, I went into it blindly. Um, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I got stones, and I thought it was a UTI. So bacteria always colonizes inside your bladder, so there some will always show up when let's just say you go to your primary care doctor and they draw urine and test the samples, and it's going to show that you have bacteria. But at urology, they test for specific bacteria, and if they see that there is bacteria, they're always going to prescribe you UTI. I mean, sorry, they're always going to prescribe you antibiotics and say that you have a UTI. I've learned that I was ADing. Autonomic dysreflexia is a symptom that you feel when you have UTI or any discomfort as a spinal cord injury. And I realized the discomfort I felt was not from a UTI because bacteria always colonizes in my bladder. But the discomfort was because I had a huge bladder stone. It was like stuck in my kidney still and didn't drop yet. And that's what it was. So anyways, it finally dropped and they had to take me to emergency room and break it up and remove it. So my best advice as someone who has a suprapubic catheter is to make sure you always flush. And what I use is Renacetin flush. It is an irrigation that you can ask your urology for. And yeah, that's one thing for bladder care. But catheter care, you always want to drink a lot of water. And suprapubic catheter, there's something called cystoscopy. I get it every 6 months. And the urologist meets with me and they put a small camera through my suprapubic site and it goes into my bladder, and there's this like basket thing that they just clean out all the junk with. Because if you drink a lot of anything you drink, even salts, and if you take calcium, it transfers through your bladder and you're supposed to pass it. But if you have a catheter, it's harder to pass. A suprapubic catheter is harder to pass. Therefore, yeah, the cystoscopy helps you clear out all the junk in your bladder that doesn't get passed through the tube of your suprapubic catheter. And how do I manage like leg bag and night bag? I wear leg bag during the day, and at night I wear a night drain bag, and I always make sure to sanitize it by spraying it and capping it. And let's see. Yeah, it's really important to disinfect all your bags and not leave it out in the open to air because it does, capture bacteria. And let's see. Lots of water. Lots of water. Water is something I always am working on, and I think a lot of us quads, are struggling with that too. And let me see. Let me pause real quick and see what questions there are. As a quadriplegic, what are the most important things to remember when choosing a diet? For me, I try to balance my diet with some carbs, protein, and a large portion of vegetables. And I always try to stick to that, and fiber is really good. So I try to choose fibrous foods like yams. I eat whole brown rice. I like the Korean short grain brown rice that you can find at H Mart. And I find that fiber, like Fiber One bars or the fiber powders, it used to work for me, but it started to constipate me. It was like a weird adverse effect. And I read somewhere that it doesn't work well with the gut of someone who has a spinal cord injury. So I'm not sure about that. And Brianna asked, how do I dry my bags? So every time I take it off, I have someone spray it with alcohol, or no, rinse it with hot water, and I drizzle in some soap and let it run through a couple times, and then I spray it, fill it up with water, and then cap it. I like to keep it with some like soap and water in the bag overnight, so it kind of disinfects whatever bacteria is still sitting in the bag. And I just leave it in the sink or I hang it up. Frankie, adapted Zumba classes. I'm not too sure. I do know that there are, but I haven't been to any specifically. There's a lot around, you know. I've always Googled adaptive X, Y, and Z, and you'd be surprised what you find. Okay. How... So someone asked me, like, shower chair techniques and supplies. I use a shower chair. I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to insert like a 2-minute clip that's very descriptive, and you can see my whole bathroom setup as well. I use a shower chair. It has a cutout commode hole in it, and it also can recline back and forth, and it has like an armrest and everything, and leg rest, footrest. And I use a shower caddy. It's like a basket, and then I have I have let me pull it up for you guys. I realize I have it. So here's an example of how I shower. Like, you'll see me with the shower basket, the rubber tubes, the shower mittens, and I bought an electric toothbrush. These bottles are rubber grip, so it helps me pick things up in the shower, and I bite things out as a quad, and the flip caps make it really easy for me to squeeze it out and open it up. And I hope you don't feel discouraged, because this is coming from someone who has only one strong arm. If you notice, I'm doing majority of the work with my right arm because my left arm is a lot weaker. I can't lift it as high. And yeah, these are my supplies. I'm going to give you guys a second to just continue watching it. And here is how you see me flushing. That's the big syringe, and that's my catheter. And, you know, I have people hand me my syringe because I can't suction up the flush itself. I hope that explains it. Here is also a bathroom breakdown of what my structure looks like. This is my pee station, I call it. This is sanitizing water that I change out every week. It's 3% bleach and just water. And next to it is the same thing. It's for my syringe because I routinely flush every other day. This is for me to save my pee caps, like this one right here. I like to save them. I switch out the water. Over there with the pointy nozzle is bleach. Up top is toothbrush, cups, another glove holder. Whether it's my leg bag or my larger night bag, I always fill it up with water and soap, and I let it soak, and then I just have my caregivers spray it with alcohol and cap it and just let it soak so that bacteria, you know, just doesn't sit in it too much. Mel's little paw cleaner, alcohol. I always, again, keep little tiny syringes in case I need to change out my catheter, or if it's clogged, then it's just right there. And over here to the left, trash can, heater. Over there is a shower caddy that I bought. It keeps everything organized, you know, all of my products that my caregivers or family use after I shower. And if you look up, there is my cabinet. In that mason jar is my flush that I routinely refill every month. I just request refills when it's low and they ship it to my house. And then if you open the drawers up top, those little tubes to the right is my flush that they ship to me every month right there. And I just squeeze it into my mason jar. And up top are chuck pads and Mellows shampoo. And if you look onto the toilet, this blue is a bum protector. I generally do bowels sitting up in the toilet. Due to COVID, my mom does do my bowels at night now, so I do bed bowels, but if it comes down to it, I do prefer to do bowels on the toilet because gravity helps the routine go faster, and it's just healthier because you don't have someone poking and prodding you downstairs. And last but not least, this is my shower stall. It's a standing shower stall. The cool thing about the shower chair is that if you pull this lever, it tilts forward and back so that whenever I'm dizzy or I need more support, then, you know, just So yeah, if you notice that those cups that's sitting on the shelves, just to elaborate a little more, the first cup is a bunch of caps that I saved from, whenever you open a package from new pee bags, they provide you caps. I save them over time, but I also cycle out old ones. I soak them in 3% bleach water and just let it sit. And I bought a mace, more like those food storage containers, and I make sure to have a cap on it because I'm skeeved out by anything with open air. And then right next to it is a cup full of 3% and diluted bleach water. Again, I soak my syringe in there because I flush routinely every time I shower. And I will, if you guys want to know the name to the chair, I still need to figure it out. It's been a while since I've gotten it, but um, I will get back to you on that one. And another question is, when traveling on trips, what is the most challenging part of getting accommodations? Definitely hotels. Even when you ask for, it's for me, I have to look for a standing, a wheel-in shower, the accessible room, or if they don't have any available, I try to look for a room with a standing shower. But it sucks because you don't ever know the dimensions of the shower when you travel, because all hotels are built differently. So yeah, when I travel, hotels is really difficult to book, ADA rooms, or like people are just fighting over it. And another thing is how costly it is. As a higher quad who utilizes a power chair, it is costly to rent a accessible van each time, but it's what it's what brings me most convenience and independence. So I always have to fork out and rent an accessible van, and not every area has like vans that are suitable for you, and different areas you travel to costs an arm and a leg. And as everyone knows, the accommodations for airplanes are not always the best. If I were to travel by myself, they say I'm a liability. They can't help me, like wave shift or anything, or if my pee bag like gets super full, then I'm screwed because no one's there to help me. And accommodations is just, not every airplane has that storage compartment where you can break down your manual chair and keep it on there in case you're afraid of it being damaged. And yeah, and unless you have global entry, I got TSA pre-check. It costed a little extra. It was like $100, but it provides me a little more convenience because I can skip lines, and the whole pat down isn't as vigorous. But yeah. Okay. How do I manage daily life and independence? There's so many factoring things to independence, but I will, boil it down with what I generally rely on. I think communication is so important. It's very important to communicate about your schedule and to your caregivers because they have a schedule, especially if you're hiring someone who's a mom. So you want to communicate your schedule and be mindful of their schedule as well, and then you guys work together. And I always plan ahead of time, and I'm very big on time management, and to I like things to be efficient. So yeah, it's always important to kind of map out what's coming up in your next week. And you got to think about like, well, what's going on in your life at the time? Like, are you going to physical therapy? Do you have appointments? Do you want to cook? Do you want to go, grocery shopping? All of that factors in how to balance a schedule. And then I'm very big on utilizing my Google Calendar. Me and my cousin, we set up whatever appointments I have, and then I tag her, and then it goes straight to her phone. And at least it keeps both of us on top of it. Sometimes I'm a little awful at it because my quad fingers, and I'll set it for wrong times or the wrong days, but it happens. Life. Again, it's really important to build your schedule around your priorities. for me, like for example, this week I'm starting physical therapy again at this spinal cord gym, and I know that I have to be there by 1, and it takes 30 minutes to get there. I have to think about what outfit I'm gonna wear, what I'm gonna eat before going there and coming home. So on, I think on Friday, I went grocery shopping with my caregiver, and then on Monday, I marinated my steak. And then today I fried it because I'll be going to my appointment tomorrow. So there's a lot of pre-planning ahead of time, and just really it takes work, and it comes with experience. It doesn't like happen overnight. I was the worst. I was injured at 17, so I was teetering between being a teenager and also an adult. So I had to learn how to balance it all. Now at 31, I would like to say I learned a thing or two. And yeah, so when you prioritize your needs, you have to, again, ask yourself what's important to you. How you build your schedule is entirely up to you. So I say I have my cousin from 9 to 5. What am I going to do during that time? And it's entirely up to you. If you want to spend time in nature, pre-plan for it. You want to make your day's worth, and you want to make your money's worth. What's suitable for you. Again, care, appointments, errands, meals, physical therapy, exercising, bowels, groceries, shower, they all factor into how you build your schedule and balance your independence. And the next topic is depression and lack of motivation, and how to be gentle with yourself. And I think I think on some level, all of us feel it. It's just natural human suffering. And I've learned it was really hard for me when I first got injured. I laid in bed 7 days a week. My only source of entertainment and motivation was to eat and watch TV. I watched things on repeat every week. And what's it called? It was really hard. For 4 years, I lived a life like that. I had no sense of hope for the future. I didn't really care about myself and what happened to me. I was just kind of existing and just passing by. And depression was something I struggled with heavily for, I want to say, 10 to 12 years maybe. It's only gotten better recently because I've learned to put myself out there. Depression made me realize, like, it stems from, for me, like, lack of self-awareness, like what I like, how I feel about myself, what my purpose is, and I allowed myself to grieve. I think grieving is so important. Like, grieving is really important after you incurred such a traumatic life experience, such as a spinal cord injury and paralysis. It's not an easy walk in the park. And for me, grieving was allowing myself to be sad when I felt sad, allowing myself downtime when I needed it, allowing myself to be sad, just broken. If I felt broken, I allowed it, but eventually I had to learn how to pick myself up, because I started kind of playing a game with myself. Like, okay, if I want to be sad, my friend taught me to, like, put a timer. Like, you can be mopey for the next 2 hours, and then after that, go try to do something to make yourself feel better. Go out in nature, go for a walk, wash your face, wipe your face, go watch YouTube or like eat something, anything to get out of that funk. And this took years of practice, but those little moments all add up, because those are little moments of you taking care of yourself, even if you felt crappy, so again, like I always say, those little moments are like, they mean a lot, because it's you not giving up on yourself, even though it feels like it, or even though it feels like you want to, but if you want to fight depression, just my best advice is, do anything possible to uplift yourself and allow yourself to feel them. Your feelings are extremely valid. and you're entitled to them. But I just hope that they don't consume you and rob you of the beauty that life does provide you. And yeah. Yeah, processing my emotions is really important. I think just allowing myself to just be sad and be present with my emotions are so important, because for so long I did run from them. I, you know, you guys see me on Instagram and I'm a little cookie cutter, but no, like I ran from my emotions for so long. I self-medicated. Even as a teen, before my injury, I already had depression. I was like heavily doing drugs. I was just running from myself. I went from running from myself to being in a wheelchair, and then further like just numbing myself because it was all too painful. But when I bit the bullet and was just like, I can't live life like this. That's when I started to heal. I started, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional talking about this. I started going to therapy. I did whatever. It was literally, it felt internally like life or death. Like this, I didn't want to give up on myself, and I didn't want fear or like this predicament to rob me of life. Like life that I'm entitled to live. And yeah, I cannot stress enough how, little things like going for a walk, sitting in my backyard in nature, exercising, putting on makeup, putting myself out there in the community, join support groups, and therapy. Like I cannot emphasize enough how much therapy has helped me. And I know a lot of us are like, oh, I don't want to have to shop around because certain therapists don't work for you, and that's true. I've been through it too. My therapist right now, I almost left because I was just like, oh, I don't feel like she would understand what I'm talking about. And I gave it a chance. And she turned out fine. She turned out great, actually. And I hope you don't feel like it's for nothing every time you feel like you have to open up to someone and they're not a good fit for you, because if you look at it, it works out in your favor because you still learned to open up. And those are like the small steps of healing, is just you learning to talk about it, because the more you put it out there, the more you're able to talk about things. It just, it's very freeing. For me, I guess I spent a lot of time isolating myself, and I bottled things up a lot. It was hard for me to admit to pain. It was hard for me to talk about, because it's so real and it's so raw, and it's just like, okay, I talk about it, then what next, and sometimes there doesn't need to be a solution. Sometimes it's just great to talk about your feelings and how much pain you're in, or like what's bothering you and whatnot. So again, I do emphasize therapy, and I do highly suggest it if you're open to it. And putting myself out there in the community again really helped. I did, even if those were things that just didn't sit well with me, or not sit well, but they weren't super in my interest, but it was different things, to kind of get my mind off what I was feeling, or try to help me gauge my interests. So yeah. Again, I always say everything I do, I keep in mind that it's me fighting for myself and my life. I just refuse to let grief over what could have been dictate my ability to pave a life for myself. And it's okay to grieve. Grief comes in waves. It's just because I'm in a better place, it doesn't mean like I don't get struck with it here and there. You just kind of allow it to be there, and you go through the motions and allow it to exist, and then you kind of pick yourself back up again. And you also, you want to ask yourself what your fears are and your limiting core beliefs that hold you back. I had to really ask myself that. For me, for the longest time, I realized my core beliefs is that I wasn't good enough. I've always felt that way, but I felt that way even more so because I was disabled. I felt like I was unlovable. I felt like I was never going to find love. And at the same time, I thought love was going to like fix me or like make this situation better. But I realized at the end of the day, these core beliefs were hurting me, like I can only love myself and be there. I can only take care of myself, it's things like that. So yeah, really ask yourself what your core beliefs are and what your fears are that kind of makes it too much for you to handle, or it feels like it's too much to handle. Brianna asked, what is the best lesson or realization that you were taught in therapy? Again, why I place such high value on certain things. Like for the longest time, I drove myself crazy, feeling like a failure because I wasn't in a relationship. Because you're on Instagram and you see like couples everywhere, so you're just like, I want to, like I want to be in like couples goals category, and it's just, but it stemmed from a lot more than just couples goals. I had to, really ask myself, like, why do I value this so much? Why do I drive myself crazy valuing those things so much? Like, does it benefit me, or is it just fulfilling my ego, or am I driving myself crazy? Or do I have this idea that, that's gonna, save me? And another thing in therapy is that, again, I think venting is so important as someone who bottles up her emotions. I didn't know how to talk about it, and I used to regret going through all these therapists because I felt like they weren't very compatible with me, and I felt like I was so protective of my vulnerable emotions, but it only taught me to open up. So in hindsight, and now I'm just grateful that I did it. So you always have to start somewhere, And let's see. Chelsea says she's the same exact way. And Frankie asks, were you able to get the support and encouragement from friends and family? Yes, absolutely. And I think all of us have different varying backgrounds of like the home we live in, and my life hasn't always been this stable. When I first started out my injury, it was so confusing, and it sucks because I'm raised by a single mom. I had a dad that wasn't very willing to be, he couldn't commit, and I blamed myself, and I thought like, oh, this is my chance, like I'll finally have my dad back. He'll finally want to come back and come be a family and take care of me and help take care of me, but that wasn't the case. And so I was raised by a single mom, and so much like financial crisis and whatnot, but we worked really hard to get where we're at today. And so I hope I hope you don't feel alone in your home life. Not everyone's life is perfect and picture perfect as it seems on Instagram, especially not mine. So, but I do have really good family support. I think growing up with a single mom and two other siblings, you're all you have, and so you learn to stick together. And it took a lot of work. There's obviously bickering, fighting, tears, happiness, but it's a part of life. And I've had very supportive friends, but I've also fallen out with people too, which is normal. And I'll get to the friendship topic towards the end, because I wanted to go over all your guys' questions and topics. So yeah, sorry, that was for depression and lack of motivation. I hope you just find it within yourself to fight for yourself. Anything. There's no right or wrong answer. Whether it's therapy, whether it's crying, whether it's journaling, whether it's, self-care books. It's an outlet to work on yourself and try to reroute those pesky little thoughts and emotions that we tend to feel are too hard on ourselves. Okay, the next topic is aging with a spinal cord injury. Although I'm only 31, I have yet to see what else is to come. I'm a little nervous, but I do know the complications that I'm aware of so far are stones, from whether you have a catheter or not, stones, osteoporosis, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. I'm very nervous about osteoporosis, so I get in my standing frame a lot every day. And diabetes, I am mindful of what I eat, like diet and whatnot. I do work with a dietitian that is covered by my insurance at my hospital. So you can always see what your insurance covers or whatnot. And cardiovascular disease, just mindful of like salt intake and whatnot. Um, Again, to counteract those things, I exercise, I stretch, like range of motions daily. I take my vitamins, I keep up with standing frame, I do blood work. I used to not keep up with my blood work. I didn't realize how important blood work was. And it shows you, your, like if it's high in salts, high in fats, high in sugar, and yeah, things like that. You're more aware of your body and what's going on. Again, mindful eating and balanced meals. Uh, Something that increasingly gets, unfortunately, worse is pain. I always thought like the more I felt and the more I regained, I would be more comfortable living with paralysis, but no. The more I like regain, the more pain I feel. Like, oh, it's just, it feels never ending some days. But I make sure I keep up with posture control and correction because in the past I couldn't control my body and it developed like habits and how I sat and it caused a lot of pain. And range of motion really helps. I do range of motion daily in the morning, and I stand and I also get on my other workout machines. And I do take ibuprofen and Tylenol and like minty eucalyptus oils. It helps alleviate pains. I hope that helps and answer your guys' questions. And yeah, back to the topic of friendship. I know a lot of us, I don't know for you, but back then, my sense of identity revolved around friendship. Um, I think I was just insecure with myself and I longed for acceptance that um, I, my sense of identity revolved around my group of friends, what they want, and like, I couldn't go anywhere alone after I was injured because I was really insecure. I felt most secure if I was within my group of friends and I was out with them. But, and I know it's easy to feel like life kind of moves on after you get injured and like people are there when you're in the hospital and then when you come home, it kind of just dwindles down, you know? And I understand, I've been there before. And I've been where there's a lot of friends and support, and then I chose to just distance myself from everyone, and it hurt. I had to really reevaluate who was good for me and who was not. And it's okay if you're not close to everyone. I think as someone who lost herself um, chasing other people, at one point I realized that I needed quiet time to myself, and that meant distancing myself from other people. And it was like literally like a death because it's all I knew, like people, friendship, everything that fulfilled my ego. And then I went to like really sitting with myself and really building myself on my own without the opinion and identity of someone else. And so again, relationships and friendships, distancing or falling off, it's natural. It's a part of life. And I know it's hard, you know. I know it's really difficult. But you have to ask yourself, like, at the end of the day, like, it's really important to understand that you have yourself, you know. And I mean, these are friends that I thought I was going to be friends with lifelong. And that didn't turn out to be the case. And I was okay with it because I made that decision. I had to really think about it and really, again, fight for myself and my sense of self-worth, sense of peace. I think I had really poor boundaries with people back then, and I think I tolerated a lot more than I should have for the sake of not wanting to be alone and feeling the need to have company. But if you're in like terrible company, it's not very beneficial to you and your mental health either. And when I distance myself from people for my own sense of peace, I like swore I wouldn't be close to anyone ever again. But little did I know, like just new people came along, like out of nowhere. Like my closest friends right now, they live 3 hours or just, far from me, but we keep in touch all the time virtually. Thank God for, the internet. But new people come along, whether you believe it or not. And I know it hurts in the moment, but they're all there for a season, as people say, and also to teach you something. Either teach you something about life or something about yourself. So I hope you don't blame yourself, and I hope you don't feel like it's your injury. If you weren't in a wheelchair, you'd have more people around and whatnot. And I realized the people that are still in my life are truly the ones that are meant to stay, and the important ones, because it's effortless. I don't have to ask for anything, and they still are so mindful of me, and vice versa. You just see who is truly genuinely there for you and cares about you. And just because people don't reach out to you, I hope you don't feel like they don't care about you and what's happened to you. Life literally gets in the way. I know I don't keep up with people. The girl that was in the car accident with me, I don't talk to her every day. Sometimes I don't even talk to her for years, but I know the friendship is always there. And we went through this together. We sat right next to each other. And we went to high school together and everything. So it's normal. As you grow up, the more you work on yourself, it's not as consistent and proactive. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any more questions. You guys are welcome to ask me some more questions while I'm still on this live for a little bit. But let's see. I want to see if I got every topic. Also, for intensive therapy, I hope you guys don't feel like you have to go to a facility. If you go on my Instagram page, you will see that I have a lot of videos on how to adapt workouts from home. There's a lot of resistance bands. I've drilled hooks to the walls to do resistance pulls, and I buy wrist weights, and I do arm. They're called snow angels. You do shoulder exercises back and forth, and then I also get transferred on the bed, put the bed all the way up, and do crunches. Anything to get my body moving. So don't feel like it's only it has to be intensive therapy at a facility. And as for caregivers, I do use IHSS. I want you to know that they generally, in Silicon Valley at least, they have an IHSS registry line where you call them and you tell them what your needs are, the hours, and they email you whatever list of caregivers that's in the system. They like to only email you 3 to 4, sometimes 6 max, and to see if it works out for you. And if it doesn't, then you have to call back and be like, oh, the list you sent me, no one was either available or no one was interested. And they also, I know they have a IHSS nurse line, I think for people who have caregivers who do no-show and you're stuck without a caregiver. IHSS is really good with that. But I know each county in different states, provide different things. So just look into that or ask your caseworker. And Brianna asked if I could go back and not, if you could go back and not have your injury, what would you do? If I can go back and, oh man, I think I would not take advantage of like the simplicity of just curling up into a ball. Like I always watch people sit and bring their legs up to their chest and kind of hug themselves. I wish I could do that. I can kind of do it, but like it just looks so comfortable to me because I am so uncomfortable every day. I have chronic tone, spasms, pain. I have to work out multiple times a day in order to get, blood flow. But things like that, simple things like just curling up in a ball or just curling up in bed comfortably, because I don't, ever since I got injured, I really don't know what comfortable sleep is. I have to take, I take an abundance of like gabapentin, baclofen, and dantrolene at night and trazodone to kind of like put myself to sleep. Some days I can go with less, but it really does help me throughout the night. Yeah. And I obviously wouldn't take advantage of like running, swimming, just anything active, simple active, just, for some reason I had a memory of me walking into my room, what my room used to look like when I was 17, and just turning on the lamp. I oddly thought about that the other night. And it's just little moments like that where you reminisce. You're like, so foreign now, because I'm just like barreling through the doors with my wheelchair now and slamming open the lights. But yeah. Do you guys have any more questions? Let's see. Okay. I'm glad you can relate, Chelsea, if you're still on here. I know it can be, difficult in how we process our emotions and go through depression. And, speaking for myself, it gets better. Just, don't give up on yourself. But okay, it looks like nobody else has any more questions. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys would like to purchase any apparel from my Resilient line, it would really help me out. It helps me afford ongoing physical therapy. But if not, liking, subscribing, and clicking on the notification bell will give you alert for future episodes. And thank you so much for tuning in for today. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to DM me and I will include them in my live next time. Thanks for watching my first live ever. I really appreciate it.